Hi, this is Maritza from Maritza Concepcion Intuitive Consultants. I am a psychic life coach. The following is a video from my live show from an anonymous caller. Please like, share, and subscribe.
W.O. and Charlotte.
Okay, and what is your question?
Um, what questions can I ask? Can I ask about love or finances or
You can ask
anything?
whatever you want.
Okay, let's ask about love then.
Okay, wonderful. What do you want to know about love? If you're gonna find a significant other, how's your relationship going? Which one do you want?
Yes. How is this relationship going, and is it going to last? Is there maybe a third party involved?
Okay. All right. So that's a two-part question. So I'm gonna start with the first one. If it's a long-term relationship, is it fairly new?
No.
Okay. It's been a couple of years.
Yes.
Okay. But there's some things that are new that are happening because when someone has a question like this, I almost feel like there's a change there in the relationship, or there's a change and a shift in that person's mind or in that person's situation. Okay, so give me just a second, and you say if this is a long-term relationship here. I think 2 years is a long term. I would say.
It's definitely, we've been on and off for about 10 years, but we're looking to like purchase a home and, actually get married. So I just want to know if that's kind of the right decision to do that.
Okay. Now we're switching the question. Okay. So the question really that you want to know is, do you take a chance of moving in together? Right?
Right.
Okay. Because the moving in together is long term. So there goes that answer to the question. So I think more or less what you want to know whether this is a good decision on your behalf, right?
Right. Good job.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And what's his initials?
RH.
Okay. It's almost like you guys known each other for so long, you almost feel like two old couple, right? Like an old couple. So, but there has to be some hesitation on your part, because I almost kind of feel like he holds you highly, yes, but at certain times where in your relationship you feel like you're doubting it because there's some undertones of, okay, is this really true? Is this who he said? Is he who he says he is? That's the question for you, because there's always a shift there for him, and it impacts you on a deeper level, but you don't say anything about it. So if you want to do this, right now is not the right time.
Okay.
This is not a good decision next month. Okay?
Right.
Because I think you guys are kind of working on it like, well, I almost kind of feel like you guys already live together. Does he stay there a lot?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
I mean, he has clothes here off and on, like.
Yeah. It's to be honest with you, I don't think it's a good idea right now. I think that you should work on the relationship a little bit more before you take that 100% leap. Does that make sense? Right now, the on and off works for you, and the on and off works for him. Sometimes you don't want that on and off. You want the commitment. You want the living together. Let's make it happen. Let's make it work on it. And then sometimes you don't. Right? Does that make sense?
Right, yeah.
Okay. So I almost kind of feel like you need to work on, okay, what is it that I want from this relationship? Because I almost kind of feel like it's almost like like our clothes. We love red one week. We don't love red the next week. And it's kind of like, I want him here this time. I don't want him here. So that's a problem. Okay? Because when you commit to living together with someone, they're not going anywhere. Does that make sense? Now you have an out. You're like, oh my God, I don't want to hear him anymore. Let me go home. Make sense?
Right.
Okay. So now is not the time. I think that you should kind of evaluate the relationship at this point, because it's almost like you guys go through some good periods and then not so good period, then good periods and not so good period. I think I need you to decide whether it's going to be good for a longer period than just a couple of months here, a couple of months not. You know what I'm saying? So I need you to evaluate your relationship a little deeper than just making a decision to move in or not. Does that make sense? There's other things that you need to work on before that is a question. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand.
Okay,
I get it.
great. Now, what was the second part of the question? You said, is he faithful? Is that what you're saying? That was the second part of it? Okay. At first he was, okay, there is a lot of temptation out there. I'm not saying, a question like this, we have to be sensitive and careful what we say, because we don't want to say, hey, he was cheating on you and blah, 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 and then you go back and hell breaks loose, right? But I just want you to know that with you, there's temptation, right? Do you understand that? When you're out and about, men try to talk to you and befriend you and things like that, right? Same goes for him. So, it's how far you take it is the problem. Sometimes he will get emotionally involved with people, so it's not good or bad, right? I think it works for him because he wants to feel like I'm still desirable, just like us women. We want to feel desirable. We want to feel like we still got it. We want to feel like, oh my God, I can be a lot of things to a lot of people. Does that make sense? So, yeah. So, I want you to just be careful from now to your decision-making process, because both of you guys are committed and then you're not committed. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. I need you to have a conversation with him. I'm not trying to go around the question, but I kind of am because it's a give and take situation, because I almost kind of feel like in the past you had your little flings. Does that make sense? In your emotional side. I'm not saying you went to bed with them. I'm not saying you had a one night stand. What I'm saying is people talk with you and you conversate as friends.
All right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So he has that as well. It's more on the emotional side. Okay. So we have to understand that the emotional side is more important than the physical, because when we get emotionally interested or involved with someone, it's harder to get out of the emotional side than the physical side, because you could do the physical and it's end of story, right? You don't have to see that person ever again. But when you're emotionally involved, you're talking, you're understanding who you are, you're speaking with that person, they understand you're going back and forth. Does that make sense? So you have to be careful how he's conversating with friends, so to speak, and you too. And then to have that serious conversation with him, because right now it's a delicate situation where you're in right now. I get that you guys want to move fast, you want to move in, blah blah blah, but it's not a good time right now for that, because when we move in together again, we have to be committed, and I don't think either one of you guys are ready for that.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I agree.
I know it's probably not something you wanted to hear, but I'm not here to tell you what you want to hear. I'm
No, I
I'm
mean,
trying to
I
get
kind
it.
of, if I had any, I mean, obviously I had doubts, since, since I had the question. So I mean, yeah, you're saying, exactly what I thought.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, we weren't looking to move in next week or, maybe in 2 weeks or anything, but we were hoping, or I was hoping maybe by the end of the year, maybe. No, it's okay.
We're back, and so you were saying that you guys were wanting to move in, maybe perhaps next fall.
By the end of this year, like December, the winter.
No, I don't see that happening. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I think that there's going to be too many unanswered questions, too many things for you to work on. It's going to be more or less that you're. Are you thinking about going back to school?
I was thinking about that.
Okay, so I see you going back to school, and you're so caught up in school and work, and it's just not happening at that time. Perhaps maybe you should rediscover it next year. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Because right now, again, if you do as you please, and you're gonna do what feels right, but at the end of the day, I want you to remember that you have to evaluate the situation where it is at this point
Okay.
and see if it's going to be a long-term thing. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for calling in, and I have another caller on waiting on the other side. So thank you so much for calling in. Give me just a moment.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. If you're interested in a private consultation, you can contact me on any social media links in the description box.